What up, guys? That Comic Awesome here, doing another weekly end roundup, as it is Wednesday, and I'm still trying to get through some reviews from last week's pool. So I'm kind of doing a blanket review. So I'm just going to kind of do some rapid fire on each of these three books. We'll start from worst to best of these three. So we're doing Jetsons number 6, Spider-Man number 239, and Superman number 44. So let's start off with what I deemed pretty much the crappiest book from my last week's pool. Jetsons number 6. This wraps up the Jetsons series in the laziest way possible. There was a comet heading towards Earth. George and Rosie essentially sacrificed themselves to try and stop it, but it doesn't work. That's how it ended. Again, if you watch my review of number 5, it had a lot of depth to it, and it kind of made you sit on the edge of your seat a little bit. And then this pretty much lets it back, be like, oh, nope, this series is still just bottom rung at best. And so lazy that the writer even put something in that contradicts something from the first issue, and I will show it to you. So you kind of get, Jane dreaming of her and George. It's the last day of Earth. The comet's going to come and pretty much end humanity. But as it does, it stops. And then this is what I don't like about this. One of the things I don't like about this book, the tone of each character seems odd. So Jane, instantly it stops, right? And Jane is contacted by one of her coworkers about going to explore, and she's like, "Oh, absolutely," seeming excited. But then when she gets there, she's like, her coworker's like, George died a hero, blah, blah. And then she gets all pissed off. George died for nothing. Like, completely, melting down. It's like, wouldn't you have been melting down before? Either way. It turns out that they didn't die. They kind of were teleported inside the ship, where this alien who, somebody in the comments of my review for number 5 suggested kind of like an engineer from Prometheus, which I 100% agree. Essentially that, which again is lazy writing. But it turns out that the meteor that hit Earth, hundreds of years ago, that caused pretty much all of the seas to erupt and land to disappear, and cause the state of the world that it was in now, was actually destined for a different planet. And, through some crazy coincidences, it ended up on Earth. And it wasn't until Elroy bumped the building and then sent these bombs down and exploded it to send out the beacon, were they able to see the signal and head that way. So what this means is this entire series, they've been dealing with a comet coming to Earth, which turns out to be this guy's ship, and these creatures from down below, which turns out are now trying to re-terraform the Earth. But again, notice he says they didn't know where this ship had landed. The ship carrying the terraforming creatures had landed until Elroy had released it, essentially. So if that were the case, here we are in issue 1. Hang on. Here we are in issue 1. And here essentially is that sequence where Elroy bumps the ship and some bombs fall into a ditch and explode. That releases these creatures. But at the same time, Jane is already at a science conference talking about this Jacob's meteor that if it strikes Earth, it could end humanity. So it was already on its way before this even happened. So it's like you're contradicting your story a little bit that you set back in issue 1, which, by the way, I only bought this series because I liked the cover of issue 1. But yeah, I mean, it just was really lazily written. It turns out that the alien was actually coming to fix Earth because of the mistake they made, but it's going to take like 200 years, or they can't touch the land. I don't know. Don't buy this. It's horrible. All right. On to number 2. This lazy Spider-Man series continues on to being boring and lazy. This book barely has any Spider-Man. It's more akin to a Champions book, and Miles Morales still has yet to find his voice in the 616 universe. His uncle, Aaron Davis, is somehow still alive. He's, gotten the Sinister Six back together, which it's not the Sinister Six, to steal a helicarrier. They successfully do it. Miles is a little distraught, so he tries to figure out how he can find a way to find where he's selling the helicarrier so he can get it back. So he kind of goes into again, Miles doesn't have web shooters right now. He lost his web shooters in Tokyo. They've never addressed him getting them back. So how he's swinging around the city if he's not using his new super special venom webbing, I don't know. So he goes to his Uncle Aaron's apartment, realizes a safe, and then of course, because Miles has to be better than Peter Parker in every way, he has this venom strike, which gives him even more strength. He's able to punch through a safe door, which I'm pretty sure Peter Parker's done that. But again, you don't need a venom strike to do that. Meanwhile, they find out where they're selling the helicarrier, and of course it's to the newly, I love this, the newly democratized Latveria, which if many of you probably know, in Invincible Iron Man, Riri Williams essentially went to Latveria in search of Doctor Doom and took out its government, and then the U.S. government came in and set up a shadow government. So now the old government is trying to retake it back over. So they are trying to purchase this helicarrier. Now, if you've noticed, I've showed you all the pages with Spider-Man in it so far. And we have, it was the beginning of the book. This is about it. And we still haven't seen Spider-Man. And then the Champions come in. And you barely, what irritates me, so there was some pretty good dialogue. Like I said, Riri Williams pretty much upset the government in Latveria. So her and Lucia von Bardis have a little bit of a history. So they have a little fun back and forth. That's awesome. But other than that, some of the dialogue is just painstaking. One of my biggest gripes is when comic characters reference other comic characters from other companies. I found it. I'm like Batman. To me, Batman, Superman, Flash, Green Lantern, they should not exist in this world. By him mentioning that they exist in this world, not like the heroes exist, but the publications must exist, because he has to recognize that Batman is a character that he used to read or something. Gripes. Minor things. This whole series has been kind of boring. I really had high hopes for this. I mean, ever since Secret Wars, I really did have high hopes for Miles Morales getting kind of his real, own comic, but it really hasn't panned out. I hope after this story arc concludes, we might actually see some growth in the character. And now, probably, of this wrap-up, my favorite, Superman number 44. This doesn't conclude. The next issue concludes the Bizarroverse story arc, but essentially, Boy Zorro came to our Earth when Superman and the others took him back. Bizarro got very jealous, and he started pretty much tearing his world apart because he's just been so angry. The world that he created for himself. But what this whole arc has really, I don't really want to go too much into it, but what this arc really has shown is kind of what a family dynamic should be, shouldn't be kind of thing. It's very clear that Bizarro and Loez and Boy Zorro have a very dysfunctional family relationship, and it kind of hurts Boy Zorro. It hurt. He's not a happy kid. So it really is a touching story. I mean, you get some really good emotion from Boy Zorro and Bizarro. My one gripe is pretty much the whole comic is written in Bizarro talk, so it can be a little hard to understand. But when you read you read a panel, and then you have to go back and reverse it and then read it again. It's not too bad, but again, it's just one of those small little things. But yeah, so that's my wrap up for this week. I'm gonna try and start getting some of my pull list for this week done, and but yeah, so subscribe over here, watch some more videos, hit me up in the comments, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you next time.